I'm in Aaron with Access and Arbitrage. It's good to be back. I've been out for a while. I do have a seizure disorder. So I've been having clusters lately, which explains why my voice is a little hoarse, but it really fries my brain. So I've been feeling a lot better, been having way less seizures. Some days I don't have them at all. And we wanted to kind of do a show for you guys today, wondering, are you prepared for what is going to happen? It's no longer theoretical. It's no longer, we're talking about the potential things that could be happening. This is happening. So we just kind of want to do a show to kind of tell you about current events, global current events, and talk to you a little bit about preparation.
Yes, indeed. So we always talk about the arbitrage and maybe you could get by living abroad, as we do. But here and recently, we've seen the dollar weakening against the peso. So, you know, inversely, the peso was strengthening against the dollar. And we talked about Mexico putting in their application to be part of BRICS nations, right? BRICS nations, we did a show about that, BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And these people are trying to usurp the dollar. And Mexico is getting in on that. And we could see it here personally because the dollar is losing that power against the peso. And, you know, for us, that means that, you know, we get paid in dollars, you know, investment in dollars. So when you transfer your dollars to pesos to do what you have to do, you are losing money. And it's a big deal.
Not necessarily losing money because it's still cheaper.
It's still cheaper, but you're
not getting the bang for your buck.
Exactly.
Like you used to.
Yeah, so, and we can see this globally. You go to other places, like we talked about El Salvador, Costa Rica, you know, El Salvador uses the US dollar, which with the inflation, everybody over there is also losing the bang for the buck, as you said.
We talked about BRICS nations. He named the nations. For those of you who are not aware, 30 other countries also want to be part of the BRICS nation. So that's important because it's basically everybody scrambling to not use the US dollar for large settlements, for exporting, well, just trading, I should have just said, for trading. Y'all forgive me, my brain is fried. For trading and other important uses. So you're gonna see the dollar is essentially at the point of collapse. Typically I try to read at least 3 to 5 articles a day.
Oh yeah.
Because you're 2-3 minute reads. So I try to read 2 to 3 articles a day. I recently read an article that I may or may not be able to find again, put it in the description for you. But Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase Bank, it's basically saying, let's get on with it. Let's just collapse this thing so that we can kind of start fresh. And you want to understand what this means. What Jamie Dimon is essentially saying is go ahead and collapse the economic system in the United States so that we can start fresh. But starting fresh means now you're no longer, what's the name of, they'll end up being either a frontier. We, the United States, will end up either being a frontier nation or an emerging nation. I was talking to Simon the other day, and I was saying to him, you know, if it collapsed, the United States would be an emerging nation. But if the collapse is severe enough, if it's severe enough, and Simon brought that to my attention, and it very well could be, right? We don't have all of the details of the moving parts. It could very well turn back into a frontier nation. Is that horrible? No, but the United States is used to being a king, and now you're going to be a peasant again.
Yeah.
So it's very important to understand that Rome is burning. It is burning down.
And we did a show a while back about that, and we talked about seculums and the cycles of different nations and countries, and you know, we just come into that in seculum, right?
Yes.
Yes, in seculum, they say 2030, Keep an eye on that. But I wanted to ask you to go back on, when you was talking about Jamie Dimon, back on purchasing a bank.
Oh, so let me get to that.
Yeah.
Last week, or maybe the week before Friday, at the closing of the bell, First Republic, which is the bank that caters to wealthy people, had collapsed. However, because their clientele is typically wealthy, Jamie Dimon jumped in. That bank was open first thing Monday morning. He jumped in, he bought the bank, he bailed them in because bailouts are illegal, right? So I know people use the term bailout all the time, but technically it's illegal. So he bailed First Republic in. It's the second bank in 2023. Basically, one large bank per quarter is failing.
Mhm.
So this is important to start seeing that if First Republic is a bank that caters to wealthy people, how
Right.
did it collapse? And how it collapses because they're rehypothecating the money.
And people are making runs on the bank.
Mhm.
So if they want their money, you want your money.
Everybody
then-
wants their money
and then-
now, but they're rehypothecating.
Yeah,
the
but
money.
there's not the money, there's not enough money. When I say money, I should say fiat currency.
See, mhm.
To pay
Available
people
to
out.
pay people.
Yeah.
And that when you check your ledger, that is just a digital number, just digital number.
Mhm.
So just understand that just because your ledger says you have $72,000 in your account, when you go make that run on the bank and say, I want 50,000 of my 72, may not have it. Because we all know, and if you don't, I'm gonna put a link in there so that you can see how money is created by debt. What happens is they're rehypothecating the debt, and that is what is causing the economical collapse.
Yeah, so that's why we were talking about preparedness, right? So you gotta put your money somewhere. You can't, they say you're FDIC insured up to 250,000, but put your money somewhere, have your money somewhere. That's why we big on the Bitcoin, have your money somewhere in Bitcoin. And then, that turns into another thing where, you gotta have it, don't leave it on the exchange, right? We've had problems with that. A lot of exchanges collapsing. Who just collapsed?
Bittrex
Yeah.
just collapsed.
So,
One of the largest crypto exchanges, and it's because of their close ties to their financial relationship with FTX. For those of you who don't know.
So, I know people we've done it. We've got stuff on exchange to get that interest, but you gotta kind of, if you're gonna get your Bitcoin, put it away. Cold storage on the nano ledger, add something like that, whatever you prefer. Also with, when you get old school people, we're old school, but you might want to have some gold and silver, just something physical that you get.
That you own.
You have access to. So when things start happening, you can reach out and touch it. So we were just saying, being prepared. And also, we gotta get, when I say serious, you said serious, gotta get serious, because we talk to people and it's kind of like, well, I'm not sure, I don't know about this, about that. So you gotta get serious. People gotta get going.
Not only get serious, but make a decision, right? So like we said, try to get assets. Tangible assets are realistic. I know we live in a digital age. People are like, oh, but this and that and the third. Get you some silver, get you some gold, right? That you can have in your house, in a safe, wherever, somewhere where you can touch it, you can hold it, you can look at it. I do believe in Bitcoin because it cannot be rehypothecated, but just understand that our system is under collapse because they rehypothecate everything. Rehypothecation means that there's one phone, he's renting the phone, she's renting the phone, she's renting the phone, he's renting the phone, but there's only one phone. And we're getting payments from 70 people on this one phone because it's technically a digital item that doesn't exist. And this is why they love everything digitized, right? They're gonna come up with their own, not cryptocurrency, they're gonna come up with their own CB.
Yeah, CBCD.
They're gonna come up with their own CBCD. Did I say that right? Like, I'm fried, y'all, with the seizures, I'm sorry. And understand that that's gonna be rehypothecated in so much way, shape, or form. United States is all about capitalistic means. And the bigger they are, the more they're gonna cheat. So you wanna be able to kind of outsmart the system in a way by protecting yourself with something that you can absolutely rely on. Your nano ledger is your tangible item with your asset on it.
Yeah, and so most of the time we talk about macro view, right?
Mhm,
And we talk about generational wealth
mhm,
and building for generations to come
mhm.
and all that, but you also have to have the micro view of what's happening right now to you and your family and the people that you care about. So you gotta, it gets real, you gotta plan because you gotta be ready for what's happening now. And in the future, you gotta plan for what's happening down the line, right? Like we talked about a 100-year plan,
Mhm.
100-year plan, which is, so we're gonna do a show on that 100-year plan, but you gotta be ready for what's happening today.
But I just want to kind of show them the evolution of how time has changed.
Mhm.
100 years ago, in 1923, if you lived in the United States, what happened in your state is what was important. Didn't matter what was going on in the rest of the US, right? Because even though they were unionized, everything was really regulated state to state, right? They did move away from state to state currency, but before that, they had state to state currency. If you lived in Minneapolis, your money may not have worked somewhere in Texas. You understand what I'm saying? You may have actually had to have some type of gold in order to kind of get cross transactions done in the United States in those days. And gold was more easily accessible in those days, okay? And I'm telling you this because this is important. Unless your country 100 years ago was colonized, right? So for instance, my parents come from a Caribbean country that was colonized by Great Britain. It was only important in what was happening in Great Britain. What happened in France didn't matter. What was happening in Russia didn't matter. What was happening in Arkansas, if you lived in Guyana, didn't matter. In 2023, it does, right? We are now a global economy. And I want to read to you because words are important. And they always tell on themselves in a way, right? So I just want to read this. BRICS Nation is now called BRICS Collective. That should terrify you. Why? They went from a nation of 5, right? BRICS, a nation of 5 to a nation of almost 35, 45, right? Because they still have applications that they're reviewing in order to get them in. But I want to read the words to you from the article. It is going to be in the description link. It says BRICS Collective has been a constant headline so far this year. We are 5 months into the year, y'all. Why is it constant? Okay. And it says it illustrates the continuing shift of global power. That's why I wanted to talk to you about the evolution. 100 years ago, your grandmother, your great grandmother, didn't matter what was going on anywhere else. It only mattered what happened here. For us, that second, third generation, it matters what happens everywhere, even in the smallest country in the world. When their leaders start moving in with other leaders, it affects you in the United States, in your city, at your house. It says the efforts that they have been utilizing to eliminate reliance on the US dollar has been spearheaded by over 40 countries. So it's 40 countries against 1. And for those of y'all who know, the United States is getting jumped, right? We had to illustrate that. They're getting jumped by 40 people. Eminem had a song about that, and it had the defeat, and they were talking about the feet and the jumping. I can't remember the words, but, right? So conversely, how could this continue to interact with various markets remains an interesting observation. This is the article. The motions taken by the BRICS have led to de-dollarization, granting Bitcoin momentum amid global reserve currency questions. I know a lot of you are like, okay, so why isn't Bitcoin $120,000 yet? Understand that when Bitcoin hits that $60,000 mark again, dollars in trouble. And the majority of the United States citizens are getting paid in dollars. They're not getting paid in Bitcoin. right? So it's important when we tell y'all the dollar cost average, it is slow and steady, wins the race. And this is because as the volatility begins to rise, because now the US dollar is volatile, people aren't used to that. You guys are seeing runaway inflation. You should be experiencing shortages. You should be experiencing a lot of breaks in the supply chain, and it's going to get worse. Because now the settlements that are needed for you to have your oatmeal cream pie is done in dollars. And the BRICS nations are saying, no, we're coming up with our own currency, you better have it.
Yeah.
So if you are getting, I said oatmeal cream pie just because, I said it specifically because the United States citizens are used to getting what they want when they want it. We live in Mexico, we don't live that way. We live in the bush. I don't know, for the West Indians, they know what that means. For the foundational Black Americans, we live in a very rural area, right? So we did it on purpose to teach our children, while you have massive wealth, you are not going to be entitled, and you have to be able to adjust and be fluid as things happen in the world. You have to be used to not getting what you want when you want it. You have to be used to doing without. Even though you have massive wealth, those are the things that kind of trip you up, characterize, and you're not able to do what you need to do when it needs to get done.
Yeah, and that was a great explanation. Like we said, she talks about dollar cost averaging, and that's what we should be doing, but you gotta start not considering, you gotta start moving your fiat currency somewhere just to be safe, right? Right, we're talking about, we talked about this before, but fiat currency moving to money. There's tenets of money that you have that makes it money, and then keep some fiat currency because you do have emergency situations. Our good friend Andy Scheckman will tell you, you should have, he says up $5,000 cash in your home, just in case when you go to the bank, they say, we don't have that.
And if you can't have 5,000 in cash in the house, have 500.
Have something.
Because the average American doesn't even have $200 in their checking account.
Yes.
So this is, I just talked to you guys about the character aspect. I'm just gonna go in on that a bit.
Go ahead.
Because what happens is character comes a lot from habit, right? The United States Americans, when they come here to visit us, they start to say, oh, you guys don't have, and I want, but you don't have that, and we can't get, and it's like, no, you can't, right? And it leaves them uneasy, it leaves them uncomfortable, right? Because they're so used to getting what they want now. We're at the point where if you order something from Amazon at 7 a.m., it might be there at your house 7 p.m. that afternoon. Not here, right? I can order something from Amazon, forget about it. It'll come maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes a month later, shows up at my, right at my door, but it's like, oh, I forgot I ordered this blouse, right? So, and we did it on purpose, right? It was for us to kind of build character, but more it was to teach our children, even though you have wealth, we need to really strengthen your character as men. Right? You guys need to be men of value the first half of your life in order to be high value men on the second half of your life.
Yeah.
Right? Also understand that in these turbulent times, there are going to be shortages. You have to get used to that now so it don't affect you. If you go to the supermarket and they don't have your favorite peanut butter, okay, you would be surprised at how many people are completely freaked out because this store don't have that one thing that they want. They will drive around wasting gas from store to store to store to store looking for that. No, I don't do Jiffy, I do Skippy. You're not gonna find Skippy because we couldn't settle it in dollars. So I want you guys to understand what's coming. The supermarkets are going to be empty. They're not gonna have your favorite toilet paper. The malls, retail is going to struggle. They're not going to be able to get their hands on certain things. Shipping containers are going to sit in the ocean just waiting for payments to be settled, or maybe the shipping container don't make it here at all. So this is now a discussion, not just about being financially prepared, but being spiritually and emotionally prepared, because it is going to freak people out. People are used to getting what they want. It's like a spoiled child. I'm about to show my age. I don't know if you guys remember Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You remember Veruca? Veruca was the Russian girl who, she was rich. Her father gave her whatever she wanted. She would throw a tantrum when she didn't get it. And you saw how, if you guys saw Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which most of you should have, even if it was the Johnny Depp version. I'm talking about the, I can't remember his name. Gene Wilder version. I'm showing my age. But you want to start building yourself up against that now. 2, not being able to get what you want saves money, right? So it's another reason why we do it to our kids. They don't have any needs. They probably have 1,000 trillion wants, if that's not even a number, but they don't have any needs, and it saves money. It allows you to have more money, more success.
It does definitely, and it's it takes time to get used to, but once you start getting used to it, see how effective it is. And I think one of our last shows talking about effectiveness. So when you kind of, and we're not saying go without, we're just saying
get used to not getting the thing that you want. You may have to adjust. And it may change your lifestyle a bit, right? You may not get the type of chicken you want from the company you want it from, because we can't settle with them in dollars, but you can get chicken. And it's important, because we have so many people come here and visit us that we notice that is a huge problem.
And you gotta also, it was a gentleman, his name, it escapes me, but he was on the Kaiser report. You know, they took that down, but he was talking about people kind of moving out to the suburbs, or or rural areas, so that you can have the things that you need. We've noticed that here. We live in a very rural area, so we go down the street, we got markets, and you can get your vegetables, your fruits, everything you need. But then we also visit Mexico City a lot. And then you start noticing what we would call a food desert. You know, you want to get up in the morning and just get an apple or orange, something like that, nowhere to be found. And this is what's happening in these larger cities. So, think about that. If you have to get out to a more rural area, you might not get all the things that you want. Like you said, you got to go without. You can't have your favorite restaurant or this. Wi-Fi's shaky. We know that. We know that 100%. But we can go down the street and get a mango right now, like that, and it doesn't cost anything.
And a fresh chicken.
And a fresh chicken.
Or, beef or whatever, but we can't get the things that we want. There's no oatmeal cream pie at the corner store, right? There's no honey bun at the corner store. Star Crunch, I used to love that, y'all. I used to get that when I was like 16 on my way to school. But at the end of the day, again, this is character building. In this time that we live, it should not create weak men, because unfortunately, the people who are running the country, the generation before them created weak people. That's why money's all messed up now, right? So when you talk about your US government, your Bidens, et cetera, that was a generation of weak people. And this is why we're gonna spend the money up, because we won't be alive to see the consequence of it. And that is why A, your government's so old, and B, the debt is literally through the ceiling. Their own debt ceiling that they created is literally through that. So now, because of them, this is a time that is supposed to create strong men and women, right? So that's why I said, not only should we discuss the financial aspect of de-dollarization, we need to talk about the character aspect, because people are going to freak out. If y'all are freaked out at Thanksgiving when all the food's gone because you waited till Thanksgiving Day to get your stuff, imagine that every day. If you freaked out because at Christmas time, you thought Publix was going to be open, they changed their mind and wanted to give their employees time off, imagine the stores closing down and half of, you know, their fleet
Yeah,
of supermarkets has to shut down because there's not enough supply to even keep the store open.
yeah, the supply chain, like she says,
It's gonna break
it's
down.
been a problem. We lived in Florida for many years,
Mhm.
and every year it was hurricane season.
Mhm.
And people coming through, they're getting all the water, getting all the gasoline,
Mhm.
you're going
Sand.
in there, getting all the canned
Goods.
food. And so when you're trying to get your stuff for your family, it's running out.
Mhm.
And then you knew electricity was gonna be out for about a week. So you're trying to get your generator together, gasoline for your generator, and just be able to wait that out, that whole week out with no electricity, no, you gotta eat canned food goods and stuff like that. So, and that's on a small level, just because we lived in the, what do you call it?
We lived in I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, when the tropical storms come through.
But
And
the
so-
Hurricane Alley is what we call it.
Hurricane Alley.
We lived in Hurricane Alley,
And,
so
but imagine Hurricane Alley,
everywhere
yeah.
in the whole country, and other countries are prospering. Your developing nations are now emerging nations. Your emerging nations are now first world countries.
Yeah.
And you are now a frontier country. So when Trump kind of, as West Indians would say, make his eyes fast,
Okay.
those third world countries, you're gonna be a third world country, basically. Frontier nation is actually the proper name for it, but the layman's term is third world country. And understand that this isn't happening tomorrow, but it's happening quick as hell. So this is why we're saying, go ahead and brace yourself. While we are feeling it here in Mexico, we are still getting a significant discount. It's just, we were used to big discount.
Yeah. Good.
Right? I'm used to getting 70% off. I'm not used to getting 30% off. So, and that's really what's happening. We went from 70% off discount to more like a 40% discount. And I ain't feeling that. So you know what that means? That means that we don't need or want anything, and more money has to go into investments.
Yep.
And that's essentially the adjustment that we're talking about. And it's very difficult for people to do because lifestyle is a habit that comes from an unbuilt character. Or it is lifestyle that comes from a very built character, right? And this is why you can enjoy things the way you do. You know, people aren't crazy about the Kardashians. I don't care either way. However, those women have work ethic, right? So they have a built-up character that has nothing to do with their public persona. And this is why they have the money that they have. Doesn't matter how the money started. I get it. I know the story. But she took that money, like JFK's family did, and her work ethic allowed her to build and build and build, and her sisters were able to kind of sit on her back. And I picked her because people always say she has no definable talent. She doesn't. She's got a hell of a work ethic. And as stupid as people like to say that she is, she's a businesswoman. She makes good business decisions, and so does her mother.
And like I say, you know, I mean, the people, I'm just naming somebody with work ethic. You see, you know, our good brother Percy Miller, Master
P.
Yeah, he took.
He got some work ethic.
Yeah, he took the money that his uncle left him. I believe it was 30,000 or 50, and clip the clip. You see what he did.
And he's still running today.
And he's still flipping it today. He's still flipping.
He's got whole aisles of food items, like chips and cereal. He's got ramen noodles. I can't name all of the items that he has, y'all. But in a lot of areas down south, he's got a whole aisle of Percy Miller products. Yeah. So that's why I'm just talking about just understanding that lifestyle is a huge part of however your character is built or unbuilt. So that's why I was saying, in addition to the volatility, this is the time now to start practicing. Instead of getting this expensive brand that I absolutely love and can't do without, maybe I do without the item, or I do with the more generic brand item.
Definitely. And we talk about this all the time. You know, it seems small, but $20, like, I'm just buy $20 a pick. or I'm gonna buy 1 ounce of silver. You know, instead of going out to eat, doing this, that, third, you'd be surprised how quick it builds up. And you're like, wow, that was.
And I'm gonna talk to the
Yeah,
ladies.
that was wow.
Amazon is our favorite. Mine too. But before you put that item in your cart, add it up and put that in your Bitcoin wallet and try to do without the item, right? I hear a lot of, well, I make money and I should be able to get what I want. We're moving into a time where you won't get what you want. Don't matter how much money you got, right? Because your dollar is globally becoming to the point where it's worth nothing. If somebody handed you a Filipino peso, you would be like, what am I supposed to do with this? Your dollar is gonna turn into that. Somebody handed you a Honduran dollar, I don't even know what it is, what it's called. What are you supposed to do with that? Nothing. That's what the dollar is gonna turn into. So we absolutely have to kind of start to strengthen our character in order to jump higher, hit harder, and make the best of the situation that we're in. That we used to always talk about people moving to other countries, door shut. It's probably too late for you to do it because you make money in dollars. These countries are applying and your dollar's not gonna be worth much there.
Yeah, you're gonna lose. You're losing the arbitrage as time goes on.
That window,
Yeah,
right?
so
It was
the
a
window's
wide open
closing.
window and it just kept closing and closing and closing. I'm telling you right now, just looking at things, it's kind of shut.
And we talked about, and you know, we're not on here to just like,
Doomsday purpose.
yeah, but, you know, we used to talk about, was it bit pay?
Yes.
It's bit pay, so you get some of your wage in Bitcoin and things like that, you know, so that you can have some, you know, you can get some profits and stuff like that.
You can save the power in your money.
Yeah.
Or just buy Bitcoin, one or the other, it's up to you. But not to be doomsday purpose, but these are the things that we have on our mind during the day. These are the things we have on our mind at night before we go to sleep. And we just wanted to share our thoughts with you concerning that. So.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's, hey, we live in very interesting times.
I want to sneeze and it won't.
We live in interesting times, so we have to see what's gonna happen, but we have to be very vigilant about what we're doing on a daily basis, and not, you know, we can't like hem and haw and see, well, I'll see how this goes. No, we gotta get at it, right?
Two, we always give you guys historical context. That's why I took you on that little evolutionary ride from 1923 to 2023.
Yeah.
It's important. I know when we were in school, we couldn't see or understand the rationales to learning this and learning that. You guys really need to read the history of Rome because that's the blueprint that the United States used in order to build itself up. And you need to understand American history, right? When you're reading your books, I know productivity books are, that's what it is today. We're gonna read how we can do time management. We're gonna read how to be a self-starter. We're gonna read the art of not giving a fuck. Yes. 7 skills of highly successful people. Go get you an American history textbook, right? A lot of times if you guys have Amazon Unlimited, you can just borrow it. I read like 3-4 books a month for free. I pay $10 a month. It is a very excellent investment. You also want it, and you don't have to read nothing. YouTube, go on YouTube and say, I want to read American history of the US dollar. I want to read American history of how the dollar started. I want to read American history on how not even cross-border, cross-state transactions took place before they unionized and created the US dollar. It's important. We always talk about historical context because the answer of what's about to happen happened already for someone else.
Yeah.
Right? History is constantly repeating itself. That's why I say history repeats itself.
That's why we did.
Hindsight is 2020,
That's
right?
What we did the show on the fourth turning. It tells you about
the cycles
of history.
And this is why Simon and I are able to make the financial decisions we make because we understand history. So the answer is already answered, right? If you want to know what's about to happen, read the history on Rome. Rome is burning.
When it's burning.
So you want to read what happened. How did that start? What was it like before that? The prosperity of Rome, like the prosperity of the United States.
Mhm.
And I just mentioned that because the oligarchy and the so-called democracy of the United States is based on the blueprint of Rome. And that's why you want to zero in on Rome, their beginning and their end. And now you understand why American history in high school is important. Because when you became an adult and you had to start adulting, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that happened over there. Let me do this. It was a major reason why Simon moved to Mexico, because he knew.
Yeah.
Just based on, you know, some of the stuff we read and understood in history.
Yeah, you gotta be able to, I mean, in the United States, everybody likes to be comfortable and do things. But you gotta be ready to move, you know, and when I say move, I don't mean move your whole family, but chess pieces, you gotta move. If this is going on here and you see a better situation there, you have to be willing to make that move, otherwise you will suffer.
And let me make something very clear. Human beings are nomadic, period. End of discussion, right? My Bible readers, they were constantly moving. God was constantly moving you from here, moving you from there, moving you from there. Come out of this country from these people. I'm going to move you over here. Get rid of these people. If they won't go, I'm going to move you over here. We are naturally nomadic people. It is the character aspect of people who do not like change that make them generation after generation after generation. 6 generations, y'all went to this high school. Why? Right? Why? And then it's okay if you're thriving, but usually you're going to hear at least 5 of those generations complaining about where they live. So you want to kind of understand some of those aspects. I know a gentleman who now works fully remote. He lives in Brooklyn and he complains about how expensive New York is. I said, you're fully remote. It's just you. And I don't know if, I know he has a child, but
Okay.
I'm not really sure what the situation is. And it's like, if you downsize, right, it's just you. Get somewhere cheaper, right? You don't have to move to Mexico, but get somewhere cheaper. That could be maybe a more rural area of Texas, right? Or maybe it's a city in the middle. Maybe it's a city in one of the square states in the middle of the United States, right? Maybe you live outside of Cheyenne, Wyoming, or something like that. Just somewhere where you can get more bang for your buck and have a better quality of life. And it's like, well, why won't you leave Brooklyn? You know, we've been in Brooklyn for like 5 generations. Okay, then stop complaining, right? If you, cool, don't complain about how much of the money you are being paid by the state of New York is going back to the state of New York. So these are some of the decisions that we talk about. I know I sound real callous when I say stuff like that, but make a decision, right? And a lot of times it's fear that makes people not make decisions. This is part of the character that needs to be built. We had no idea what we were going to walk into in Mexico. And if I sat and told y'all our journey, you would be like, damn, yes. And it's because of our ability to adjust even when we feel uncomfortable. And a lot of times when we start to feel comfortable, it's time for us to figure out a way to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Because the minute you get comfortable, that complacency sits in, complacency kills. Period. So I'm not lecturing, right? I'm not gonna be on my soapbox or you know, on my Harlem corner. I need to be on the soapbox because then I can be just as tall as you. I need a soapbox, but we just wanted to kind of bring those things up because the BRICS nations, they're meeting 2-3 times a week. I'm sorry, the BRICS Collective. They're meeting 2-3 times a week because of technology. They can all meet in an instant. They can make decisions in an instant. And it's not like it was 100 years ago where we all got to fly into these countries. We're going to argue about it. And because everybody's so far away from each other, we can't meet again for another 3, 4, 5 months because we have to, Technology allows them to meet at an instant, 3 times a week until they get their currency done. And the United States has to make the decision on if they're going to use that currency. And they are not used to doing what other people tell them to do. They make the decisions for you, your government. So you have to go with whatever their decisions are, good, bad, or indifferent. So it's important that you find a way to protect yourself. their poor decisions.
Hey, you got it. I mean, that was it. I mean, we're glad to be back, talk to you guys and everything like that.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Today is Mother's Day. My roses are in the background.
Are they?
Yeah, they are.
Oh,
She got me that way. So, my roses are in the background. My son went out, got me roses today. It's Mother's Day. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week. This is Sunday for us, but when y'all see it, it'll be Monday. And we'll talk to you later.